The first cornetto on a Saturday morning in May is the one filled with apple, and I eat it dipped into a long coffee at the Margarita, while the market 2 streets away begins its slow assembly under the plane trees of Piazza Villa Parisis. The pastry has a coat of sugar on top of the sugar already inside it, and Sofia, sitting across from me with a cappuccino, has chosen the sfogliatella, which is the only honest answer when it's fresh. We are originally Hungarians, so we do not believe in sweet breakfast. We have lived here for 3 years and more, and we still do not believe in them. But on this morning, one time a week, with the market noise drifting across the piazza and the vigili finishing their first pass of the streets in the reflective west, we participate in this error to find that it is not entirely an error after all. The cornetto holds together for the first 3 bites, and after the third bite, it becomes a piece of soaked bread, which is the point of dipping it. The man at the table next to ours is reading La Nazione with his thumb pressing the page flat against the wind, and his espresso has been sitting on a saucer untouched for 4 minutes, which means he's from here. Marina di Pietrasanta is not a town. It is a seaside of a town. The town, Pietrasanta, is 20 minutes inland by bicycle, and it has its own piece on this side. The marina is something else. 4 small frazioni stitched together along 5 kilometers of sand between Forte dei Marmi and Lido di Camaiore. From north to south, it's Fiumeto, Tonfano, Motrona, and La Foccette. They are the same place, and they are not the same place either. Fiumeto has the Pineta and the D'Annunzio's villa. La Foccette has the old nightclub where Mina sang in 1962. Motrona is where the river once flowed before the Americans buried it during the war, so they could land scout planes on what is now a soccer field. Tonfano is where I am sitting. The center of it, if a place this small can be said to have a center, is the piazza 2 minutes from where I sleep, which has the Pontile at one end and the cluster of bars and the porchetteria at the other. Most of what happens here happens between these 2 points. The market arrives every Saturday and leaves the same afternoon. It is run by a small group of vendors who set up at 6, sell until 2, come by 3, and by 4 the streets have been swept and the parking restrictions are lifted with a German sort of precision that does not fit any other thing about this country. Sophia and I finish the coffee and walk into the noise. We know every meter of this. 3 years of the same stalls, the same vendors, the same loud and terrible house music coming from the speakers of 2 brothers who sell second-hand clothes and have apparently never agreed in their whole working lives together on a single song that anyone over 30 would want to hear. They wave, we wave back. I have bought 4 shirts from Casati Milano's pop-up, and Sofia has filled half her closet with pieces from the vintage rack at the far end. The salumerio man, Marco, recognizes us from 15 meters away and is already cutting something I did not order, because every month, usually, I bring him a bottle of Tokai from Hungary, the sweet white wine, and every month he repays me with finocchina or pieces of pecorino I would not have known to ask for anyway. He says ciao bello without looking up, and I have learned to say ciao bello back without breaking this stride. By the vegetable stand we collect 4 bags for 10 euros, and by the time we reach the rotisserie ladies at the end, I have stopped counting what we have. The ladies know us. They shout numbers at the line and dimmi caro at us, and one of them packs the chicken into foil while another scoops fried zucchini and salsiccia into a paper bag that is already translucent with grease. The chicken is spiced with something I have given up trying to identify. We do not roast our own anymore, that would be no point. We take the bags home and eat lunch at the kitchen table with the windows open to the piazza. Outside, the market is finishing, the umbrellas are coming down, and the vans are pulling up. And below of it all, faintly, the sea is doing what the sea does. The marsh is still here, by the way, not visibly, but underneath. This whole strip of sand was a malarial wetland until Cosimo de' Medici started draining it in the 16th century, and Leopoldo II had come back to finish the job in the 19th. The Tomfano River, which gave Tomfano its name, was buried in the 1940s by the American soldiers who needed a flat strip to reconnaissance aircraft. What was left of the smaller fosse was filled in over the decades that followed with marmatola, which is the pulverized waste of the marble quarries 6 kilometers inland in Carrara. Which means that everything I am walking on when I walk to the Pontilla is reclaimed swamp filled with the dust of the white marble mountain. The tourists do not know this. Most of the people who live here also do not know this. But the ground remembers in the way that that ground does, and the houses settle in their own quiet directions, and the irrigation ditches that survived run faintly green between the hotels and the villini. In May, the bagni are mostly closed, or half open, or being painted by a man on a stepladder while another man is holding the ladder steadily and reads a newspaper. The sand has not yet been graded by the small tractors that came every morning in June. The sea is not warm. Italians from Florence, Pisa, and Lucca who own villini here, that have been in their families for 2 or 3 or even more generations, walk along the Batiglia in light jackets, and a few foreigners, mostly German, already in the water because, well, they are German. Sophia and I bring the old white bed sheet, 2 bottles of water, a book maybe, and the last edition of the local newspaper, I learn Italian from it, and walk past the closed gates of 3 bagni until we reach a stretch where nobody minds us. The towel goes down past the last row of folded loungers. The sun is direct but not really punishing. I read for 20 minutes, and at some point I usually fall asleep briefly and wake to the sound of 2 children speaking Florentine to a small dog. Time has passed. The light has shifted maybe 10 degrees, and the sea has come up another half meter. This is not Forte dei Marmi. Forte is the marina that got rich on the same coast, and it is full of, well, Russians and concept stores. And the market on Wednesdays where the cashmere is real, and the cashmere is also fake, and it is wonderful in its own way, and I've written about it elsewhere anyway. Marina di Pietrasanta is its quieter cuisine. It is mostly residential, 3 streets and the pedestrian via, the Via Versilia, where the restaurants are. The Carligno is here, where the caciucco on Sundays is the reason you come back. The Cafe Versilia is here, and the Porchetteria on the main square. Where, by the way, when I was asked by the owner if they ever put cheese in the panino with the porchetta the way they do in Rome, he looked at me for a full second without blinking and said, "No, Tuscan porchetta is just meat. We add more meat. That is all." I have not asked anything again. The bike path runs from Marina di Carrara in the north to the harbor of Viareggio in the south, 30 kilometers of separated lane along Viale Roma and its various names, and on Sunday morning, if Saturday's beach was lazy, we ride our bikes. Toward Forte dei Marmi, the road passes the Versiliana, 8 hectares of Macchia mediterranea, and umbrella pines that survived, well, mostly the windstorm of the March in 2015, after which the locals stopped saying bosco, which means forest, and starting saying quel de cresta del bosco, what's left of the forest. D'Annunzio wrote La Pioggia, La Pineto in the villa inside it in 1902, lying around with Alessandro Carlotti di Rudini in some condition of summer indolence. I cannot read, but without becoming irritated. And every July, July and August, the Festival della Versiliana sets up a stage among the pines and runs concerts until September. We saw Carmina Burana there once. Well, the mosquitoes were terrible, but the music carried. There are geese who live in the park. They do not know that they live in a park. So on weekday mornings, they wander out onto the Viale Apua, 6 or 7 of them in single file, the kind of line geese make when geese decides where they are going, and the cars coming down the 4-lane stop. They do not honk, they just stop. The gang of geese takes their time. They cross at goose pace, which is the slowest reasonable pace at which an animal that can fly is willing to walk. And the drivers in their Fiat Pandas wait with resigned good humor of people who have seen this before and will see it again. And after a long minute, the last goose makes the curb and the line of cars moves on. I have stopped finding this remarkable. It is one of the small adjustments of the place that asks you, and you make it, and after a while you forget it was an adjustment. If you cross the Versiliana into Forte, you are in another country. Hotels, Russians, and the Wednesday market, the closed-off feeling of a town that has decided what it is. If you route south instead, past La Foccetta and into Lido di Camaiore, you pass another country. Well, it's the family vacation country. The bagno country, with the inflatable slides and the entertainers with matching shirts. And beyond that, it's Viareggio, which is a city with everything a city has, including a harbor and a cat called Ettore, who lives at the end of the breakwater and who has, in his own way, become a destination itself. Marina di Pietrasanta is between these two. It has the residentiality of neither. Most hotels are small and old. The houses are villini, modest by the standards of this coast, often closed October to May, owned by families from the inland cities who came down for the weekend in cars too clean to have come from anywhere with bad weather or dust. In summer, of course, everything changes. By the time Ferragosto arrives in the second week of August, it is unlivable. In the literal sense that we cannot really live here. Sophia and I leave usually to England every year and do not come back until the first week of September, when the season has cracked and the place actually exhales. The beach clubs are open, but in a way I do not enjoy. La Bussola on the Foccetta side was Sergio Bardini's club from 1955. Mina sang there, and Celentano and Vannoni and the entire pop canon of Italy that does not exist anymore, but the building still stands and it is still run. The Tviga Club is here, Briatore's Bagno, and the prices that makes Forte people feel they are like slumming. The Farouk and the Bussola Park, where they bring in summer concerts. This year I think we will have Nick Cave. The Marina has its nightlife. We mostly do not have it. We have a small bar called Lo Studio, which is what we have instead here in Marina di Pietrasanta, run by a man whose family used to own the building that is now the Margarita Cafe, who sold it for what must have been a really great deal of money and used the proceeds, as far as anyone can tell, to open the place that exists for the purpose of letting him dress as a clown and serve cocktails to his friend. The cocktails are excellent, and the clown costume is like real. And the space is some hybrid of a bar, antique shop, concert venue, circus. And the logic of it is that I have made my money, now I will have fun. It is among the most Italian things I have ever encountered. We have a butcher, Angelo, whom we buy the meat from. We have a hairdresser, Michela, whom Sofia goes to and waits and chats and waits even more. We have a farmacia where the woman behind the counter knows that Sofia takes her allergies, some antihistamine, and starts pulling it down before Sofia has finished saying buongiorno. None of this is actually unique. This is what every small Italian commune offers. Eventually, obviously, to anyone who stays long enough. We stayed long enough, I guess. What is unique here is what is 2 minutes walk from my door, which is the Pontile of Tonfano, 200 meters of concrete pier walked into the sea, and the bronze statue of Sant'Antonio submerged just south of it, that you can see only when the water is calm and the head of the saint looking up through the green gray. Sophia and I have a theory that we developed in Budapest. We used to live in a house above the city with a terrace and a view that was, well, by any reasonable measure, extraordinary. 6 months in, and we stopped going out onto the terrace. A year in, and we forgot the view was even there. You get used to almost anything. The place becomes the place where you live, and the extraordinary thing about it becomes the thing that is just, well, behind the door, the way the sound of the refrigerator stops being the sound of the fridge after the second day. I am writing and reading this from my office, which is next to my bedroom. The end of the Pontile of Tonfano is a 5 minutes walk from here, where I am sitting, and the sea is doing its work in a low rhythm I can hear if I listen for it, and the market is gone, and the streets have been swept, and the parking is allowed again. By my theory, I should have gotten used to it. By the theory, I should have stopped noticing this. I have not. I do not know when it will happen or if it will ever. Last night at the sunset, I walked to the end of the pier with Sophie, and we stood there while the sun went into the sea behind the breakwater of Carrara, and I thought again, well, the same thing I think most evenings. This is where we live, and we still not believe it.